Video game music can really make or break an experience for me. I think while good video game music is generally well appreciated, I don't think we discuss its impact on a game as much as we could. I know personally I get wrapped up examining little things like characters walking animations, so I shouldn't be surprised that these things stick out to me. Anywho, with remakes and sequels and crossovers aplenty, it shouldn't be any surprise that good video game music often gets remade or remixed, and while lately modern games will just straight up borrow the audio files, often when it's a step up in hardware or console generations, we'd get a remix of the track to go with it. After all, a game like Smash Ultimate isn't just going to pull out the sound files out from an NES game and call it a day, right? That said, sometimes they don't always get it quite right. While the audio may sound crisper and clearer, a run-of-the-mill remix can sometimes lose the heart and soul of what makes some of our favorite tracks so special. So let's talk about that. Here are some video game tracks that I think are better than their remixes. Okay, so little known fact, aside from, loving my Zeldas and my Metroids, there's a game called Earthbound, also known as Mother 2, and I adore it. I could discuss the game to death, but we're here to talk about the theme song for On It. So in Smash Bros. Melee to present, On It has been one of Ness's stages, and rightly so. It's his hometown in Earthbound, and it's pretty well represented in Smash. They replicated the little town nicely here, but they didn't replicate the theme song nicely. For the first while, they used the completely wrong Mother track for the stage's theme song, and while that's a great song in its own right, when they did finally bring the proper On It theme to Smash, they made a choice that I have mixed feelings about. On the one hand, it's Smash Bros, and it's a significantly faster paced game than Earthbound, so it makes sense to take the tempo and drive it up to the maximum. On the other hand, they really lose the small town vibe from the original. On It is small town America, and replacing the simple strumming guitar with a fast-paced brass rendition really strips away the charm and carefree nature of the track in exchange for a quick and easy update. Literally, the bass-heavy section just sounds like they hit fast forward on this. You have to hand it to the original game's composer for capturing the feeling of walking down the street in your hometown and feeling carefree really, really nicely in this track. At least the winter section holds up, though. So you probably know by now that I love Super Metroid. If you don't, I have a really long video about it. I also love Super Metroid's soundtrack. It's atmosphere times 1000, but a nice break from the ambience and atmosphere found throughout much of the soundtrack is a nice, upbeat, optimistic theme for the upper section of Brinstar, sometimes referred to as Green Brinstar. Now don't be fooled by what Smash Bros. Will tell you about Brinstar. This isn't a levitating brain canyon filled with acid. The upper section of Super Metroid's Brinstar is a cavern of overgrown vegetation, and one of the few sections of Zebes that you could describe as lively and organic. It also happens to be one of the few areas with friendly creatures that help you rather than wanting to kill you like everything else in this game. The upbeat track fits this area so perfectly and is honestly just a great song. I kid you not, I listen to this song casually, it's that good. Later in the mid-2000s, when Metroid Prime 2 came out, we were treated to a handful of new tracks remixed from Super Metroid, including both of Super Metroid's Brinstar themes. While the lower Brinstar section, I would say, is pretty comparable to its Super Metroid counterpart, albeit has a far more aquatic vibe, but that's pretty fitting. The upper Brinstar remix that comes as the main theme for the game's multiplayer mode feels scratchy? I don't really know how to describe it. I don't dislike the track per se, but I do find listening to it for too long to just be on the grating side, and it just feels like it leans too far into the sci-fi electro EDM infused weirdness of the Prime game's soundtrack. Like the Prime trilogy overall has a good soundtrack, but there's a part of me that feels like this remix is what would happen if someone were to make an exaggerated parody of that soundtrack. It's not a bad song, but it just doesn't do it for me the way the original does. And for those of you about to call me out on some weird nostalgia bias here, I actually played Metroid Prime 2 before I ever played Super Metroid, so technically, I heard those remixes first. Donkey Kong Country is good music. Okay, really, it's legendary. I don't need to get into that too much, right? We all know David Wise did a bang-up amazing job on the Donkey Kong Country Trilogy soundtrack, and later with Tropical Freeze. Sticker Brush Symphony is often used as an example of how good those soundtracks are, and for good reason, but when it came time to modernizing the track for placement into Super Smash Bros. Brawl's soundtrack, primarily used during Diddy Kong's section of the Subspace Emissary, it really fails to live up to the original for me. I think the song has in it a good rendition of some of the subtle acoustic guitar work in it, and I think that stuff is really top quality, but let's be real here. Did they ever stand a chance of competing with this masterpiece in the original song? Probably not. There's just something so special about the zany, melancholic, yet electronic feel of the song. It's a classic. We all know this song. When Smash Bros. Came out on the N64, it of course made sense to include the main series theme as the song for the Hyrule Castle stage. However, the Hyrule theme, aka the main Zelda series theme, appears in a surprisingly sparse amount of Zelda games. It's often just alluded to during other tracks or appearing only in a cutscene in the main series of games. In fact, the song is absent from the very game in which this Smash Bros. Link and Hyrule Castle stage are based on, that being Ocarina of Time. At that point in time, it had last appeared on a home console in A Link to the Past on the SNES. So rather than importing that song straight into Smash, they created a new mix of that song just for the game, which is the case for most of Smash 64's tracks. However, the result we get for Smash 64's Hyrule theme sounds kinda hollow and far less robust than its SNES counterpart. The SNES version has a great emphasis on the cymbals and all the string layers under the main brass section. I absolutely love it. If it weren't on such technologically limited hardware, it would be the definitive version of this theme. A great example of this song done right can be found in A Link Between Worlds, but the version from Smash 64 just doesn't live up to the grandiose that the main Zelda theme should represent. And there you have it. Those are a handful of SNES or Super Nintendo tracks that are better than their remixes, in my opinion. I hate to pick on Smash Bros. So much, but really it was bound to happen just considering the huge amount of music and remixes in Smash Bros. Now, this isn't to say that I hate all video game remixes. In fact, I don't even think I hate all of these remixes, but there's something special about the originals that just isn't captured the same way in those remixes. Of course, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for tuning into the video and watching, everybody. You know, usual end card stuff, like, subscribe, all that, blah, blah, blah. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.